Hey everyone, we're just getting set up here. Post this in the Facebook group live right now. All right, if you're joining us, let us know where you are. Did you sail this week? How's it going? I did not sail this week. I have not sailed in a couple weeks. I had a great session in Denmark. That was the last time I was sailing. Hey Mark, you get on the water? And yeah, we've got a lot of great topics to go over today. Just now, I just posted the link, letting everyone know that we're live. So if you're just joining us, did you sail this week? You know what I should do? Oh, this is gonna mess me up. Oops. Come on. Oops. All right. Did you sail this week? Make this nice and big for everyone who's just joining us. Took the grandkids fishing. Hey, Rich. No wind on the South Coast. Hey, Dom Dom. Finally had some wind. That sounds good. Yeah. Like I said, I didn't sail, but I got my footage from Portugal, which I was pretty happy with. You know, that trip was a while ago, a few weeks ago now, and we had kind of crazy conditions. Finally got the footage sent to me. Hey, Dom Dom, how does starboard tack feel? 3-7. How comfortable do you feel? Hey, Den. Yeah, so we've got a lot of topics to go over today. I posted the list in the group of what we're going over. And then, of course, if you guys have any questions, you just let me know and I'll try my best to answer them. Let me know if everything's working in terms of sound and video and whatever. You guys are pretty important for that. We are going to introduce a few things for organizing the posts. So I'm going to do a post after the live stream, but pretty much making a system so that we can use the hashtags within Facebook so that the older posts are easier to find. So basically a system where we've got a main category and then a topic. And so the categories are things like jumping, wave riding, gear, fitness, everything else. And then individual things are like bottom turn, cut back, sore hands, whatever it is. And so I'm going to need help from you guys. You know, the community can come together to come up with all of these topics. And then of course that's going to be a live system, as we get new topics, there are going to be new ones added and maybe some are going to be consolidated. And then you can go back and edit posts if you want to. And that will just basically make it easier to find everything that's already been posted so far. So I had quite a few requests for that and a few people have been messaging me independently. Hey Bjorn, hey John, Richie, Tomas. Cool, we've got the whole crew here today. Sounds good. Jeff is working. Nice, good to see you. Have you been sailing? Caro, how's it going? Just on the way back from Denmark. Nice. Just enough to have fun. Well, that sounds pretty good. I didn't miss much. Yeah, I wasn't able to get... drive safe, Caro. Be careful. Be careful. So we've got a lot of topics today. I've got the list. Hey, Jorg, I've got the list on the Facebook. I've also got the list written in front of me. So we've got tabletops. We've got forward loops, especially on big gear forward loops. We've got float and ride discussion, just kind of following up on last week. There was a lot of discussion in the group, which was great. I'm just going to touch on it a little bit. I don't need to touch on it too much. Jeff had a bunch of questions about hips in the turns. Hey, Marco. And then Alex posted a wave ride that we can go through. And then, of course, if there's any other questions, and I'll check if there were other things posted in the group since I did that overview of everything. Hey, Thomas. All right. Yeah, so 3 sub-sessions. That sounds like a lot. Cool. Well, I think we can get into it then. If I'm going to leave this up. So if you're just joining us, did you sail this week? Listen, if you're just joining us. So everyone who's new can see that. I don't know if I can leave that up there. No, it's going to kind of disappear. Oh, well. All right, let's get into it. So I'm going to go start with a tabletop from Den, because that's right here. So I'm going to make this nice and big. Thanks, Carl. Yeah, I've got to figure out how to make a clip with it. It's kind of crazy footage, or it was a crazy everything involved. And it's really hard to tell that story with just these waves, just the footage we have, because it's just me. And, you know, if you're comparing it to then Hokipa, it looks, oh, the wave's not so powerful. Oh, Graham's going slower, whatever. But actually, it was such an interesting spot. It was changing. Hey, Leon. It was changing every 20 minutes. And so it was very difficult to read the waves, to know what was happening. Sometimes they were really heavy. Sometimes they weren't really breaking. So like in this example, right, I'm doing this turn and the wave looks like it's going to start breaking, but then it doesn't. It just kind of stands up and crumbles. And then there's super weird things going on the inside. So there's really strange current in front of the wave and tons of rocks. So I don't know if you can see it kind of here, but if you just see the way that the water is moving on the inside, like these weird vertical lines. And here, I think these are the rocks. There's just really weird things going on with the water. It was so trippy to sail there. I was really tripping out with the water. Like, look, there's these weird ridges here. Even when I was sailing, I kept looking at the water and thinking, oh, that is not normal. That is not normal. I don't know what's going on, whether it's just weird currents or rocks. One of the other guys who was sailing, who also is a member of our group, so if you're here, hello, he wiped out and lost all his gear. Just disappeared. Didn't find it. So you can see, yeah, it's just super weird with the way that the bottom looks here. So I want to do a clip and show that. So it's just a challenge thinking, okay, how do I show those aspects of the place? I think one of these you can see a rock popping up. I think it's in this goiter, which I really want to land a goiter. There was like 20 minutes where it was possible to goiter. There was a section for goiters. And I don't know if I was coming off of I was a little out of shape because I'd just been in Hamburg for 2 months with the new baby. Anyway, these are rocks. So here you can see the rocks sticking up. These are rocks in there, right? This is all rocks. This is all rocks. And you see it? And there's an explosion that comes somewhere here as the whitewater's hitting it. So these are all rock. It was my first time sailing there. I'd never sailed there before. And so I just was not really sure what to make of it, what was going on. I think there's more rocks that you see somewhere here. You can see the water starting to drain here. These are also all rocks. You see that explosion? There's a rock right there. Anyway, strange spot, but really fun. Really, really fun. All right, tabletops with Den. Let's make this video bigger and come on, Facebook. Facebook has been glitching for me. I don't know what's up. Oh, there we go. All right, and let me know if you guys, I just want to make sure you guys can see this. Well, so here's the clip from Den. Nice tabletop. That's not a donkey tick. That's a tabletop. Nice work, Den. All right, so how do we get it flatter? How do we get more tweak? So I've got pictures somewhere. I've got some tips. Caro Weber also gave some really good tips in the chat. You know, I was following along with the chat and the in the group, and Caro gave some great tips, and I'm going to add on to that. I've got a photo which I just thought of. Normally I pull these things out before the stream, but I just thought of it when I was launching. I forgot I had it because I don't really do that many tabletops anymore for whatever reason. I don't really have a good reason for not doing them, unless I'm doing them off the lip. And so I've got this one, which is off the lip. So I want to find the sequence from this and pull this out, because I always like to use my own examples because I know how the feeling is on them. And then, all right, 48. So, see the initiation on this. Okay, so this is a bit different because it's an off the lip, right? It's a tabletop off the lip. So again, totally different entry, but there are a lot of similarities here as we're going into the maneuver. And there's something that, oops, I wonder if we can see in these pictures that I'm going to explain with the little model in a second. So what you can kind of see here, so I'm not looking down like on a tabletop that I'm doing as a jump, and I probably should be doing it on these as well, but there's just so many things going on when you're doing it as an aerial. I'm looking still forward, whereas I think, as Carl points out, you want to be looking then back at the water. But what I want to point out here is that the twist in my body goes all the way to my midsection. I don't know if you guys can see that. I don't know if I can zoom this in enough. So my hips are pointing down here, and like my harness hook is really twisted over. And so the move is very much a twist. So here's another shot in this sequence, and you can see that my front knee is pointing straight down at this point, right? And you can see that my whole torso is twisted around. And then here, I wonder if the next one is also marching. And then this is just coming out of it back into the wave. Yep. So let's go back to this clip, Den. Hey, Sammy. And so if we look at the amount of twist that you're getting, this knee is pointing, to the left rather than down to the water. And the hips are also pointing in that direction rather than down to the water. And something that I think really helps with the mental sort of conceptualization of the move is to think of it not as pushing the board up, but as a twist that starts with your hips and your core. So it's starting with your midsection and your hips, so like your abs and your hips, and that's what is guiding then this twist around the mast. And so what I want to show with the little model here is, instead of thinking about kicking the board out, what you want to think about is, I can hold it like this, maybe get a better. So instead of thinking about kicking the board out, what you want to think about is getting rotation like that. So you're rotating it around the mast. So, you know, if I use my key, you know, so like instead of thinking about pushing, if this is, you know, this is not a perfect example, but instead of thinking about pushing the board, you're thinking about really like twisting it around the mast. I don't know if that is making any sense. I feel like maybe I'm going a little bit crazy with this explanation, but for me, there's a huge difference. And this is actually the secret as well to tweaked aerials. And so there's a huge difference to me between the feeling of pushing out the board and trying to swing it around the mast. And so you've got the mast and it's connected to the board with the universal. And in the tabletop and the tweaked aerial is the same. What you're trying to do is to use your core and use your hips to spin that board around the mast. And so the motion is not pushing the board out. The motion is a circle or circular. It's an arc. And so you're coming out and around, and that twist, it's starting with your core. So let me know, Dan, if this is making any sense or if I'm sounding crazy to you. But it's, for me, there's a huge difference in the conceptualization between just kicking out the board and then doing that twist, that kind of, it's a twist and a rotation, as if you're trying to kick your body and your board to rotate around the mast. And you want to make sure that you're driving that force from your core. You know, it starts with your upper body, right? It's not starting with your feet. So that driving motion isn't happening, that like flinging motion isn't happening because you're pushing out your feet. It's happening because you're whipping everything with your core and turning your hips to face the water. And so you're really turning those hips around, and the feeling of scissoring your legs really hard, that kind of really like scissoring leg movement, right? So it means you're pushing one leg this way and the other leg this way. And then you just whip around it and you come back around. And it's the same with tweaked airs, where the trick with the tweaked air is, instead of just pushing the tail up, is getting that arc movement and getting the board to rotate around under the foot of the sail and around the mast. And then you can push it really, really far, which is why you see some guys who can do the super tweaked airs, and then other ones who just kind of get the tail up. And the difference is that technique. So the ones where you're coming around almost like a tabletop but the other way, the only way to do that is because you're rotating again from your core and in that arc motion to come around the mast. And so you've got to come like out and over. So keeping the tail of the board close to the mast instead of away from the mast. Dum ass. I think you have to think of it kind of like an arc. So you start by kicking it out, but then back around to the mast, right? So it's in that half circle. And so you're not just kicking it out and you're not just kicking it to the mast. It's not a straight line. You're working in this circle and you're rotating around there. And if you go, the half circle, then your board is perfectly upside down. If you go more, then you're more and more tweaked. And you can also do it without having the sail horizontal, and that's how you get those kind of upright tabletops. Maybe we can find one. Continent 7 tabletop. Let's see what we can find here, and then we've got some other examples. Richie's asking, so once you create that momentum, the kit twists your body instead of you twisting the kit. No, I think you're still creating the momentum, but just the point is that it comes really from your core rather than from your feet pushing the board. And so it's like you're twisting around with your core, and then that's what pushes the board out. And I mean, you're also pushing around with the legs. Let's find some tabletops to show. These are all table forwards. Tamaz asked, no, Dan, you actually want to go a little bit upwind. Upwind is easier. Yeah, downwind is harder, and crosswind to up a little bit upwind is easier. Downwind is definitely harder. Definitely more difficult. Okay, there's not that many tabletops. Here's a one-handed one from Philip, and then we'll look at some of these other ones too. I think I saw one from Steffi, and I saw one from Karen. So here's a one-handed one. So you can see how upwind he's taking off. You want to take off upwind. Crosswind, I guess, also still works, but you want to be a little bit upwind. Not like super, super upwind, but you want to be a bit upwind. And here you can kind of see that, right, that circle that he's doing with the board. And this is, again, it's a kind of a different move, but you can see that the board comes out and it's doing this rotation that starts with his hips, and then the sail just kind of stays in one place while he's doing it. That's a kind of not the best example because it's so radical. All right, let's look at this one from Steffi. From the thumbnail, this one doesn't look super tweaked, but that's okay. So again, you can see that she's taking off kind of upwind. And then is getting that rotation a bit. So she could, if you could see that if she was rotating her hips a bit more, it would be more tweaked. But she's doing a good job of staying close to the sail, which is another, with the front hand, which is another key to the move. Hey, Greg. Hope you're having a good shower. Ooh, the quality on this looks not great. So this is from Karen. Again, you can see how upwind she's taking off. And you can see this. Can you see that? That kind of. The way she's sort of rotating her body around. You can see it in this, but it's kind of quick. Let's check Tom Hartman's. That's a nice tweaked one. So you can see how rotated his upper body is in this. So you can see that his shoulders are facing down to the water. And so the tabletop is a twist. And that's really important to remember. So it's a twist that starts with your core. And so the more tweaked you want to get, the more you need your upper body turning over. But it's not just a kick with the legs. And so you're twisting with starting from your hips at least. And then you can also look down. So Den, this is great. If you want to get it more tweaked, which it sounds like you do, think of that circular motion when you're tweaking it. So again, it's kind of like with the keys, rather than pushing this up, it's like I'm spinning the board around, and that the power from that is coming from my core and my upper body. And try and point your hips down to the water. And then you can bring this front hand closer to you. That will happen also more naturally as you're twisting more, right? If you think about as your body is twisting to face the water, it's going to come closer to the front hand. But you can also actively pull in on that front hand as well to help you do that. And yeah, I think that's enough. I mean, you've got the move and it looks solid. And so with these 2 or 3 things, to take off on the upwind side rather than the downwind side, to really twist and try to get the hips facing the water. And so it's really that like scissoring motion with your legs and really getting that twist, and so you're really using a lot of your body. So you know, you can start from your hips, but like the really tweaked tabletops also have the upper body pointing down as well. And then it's that sort of flinging the board around the mast. And that's more of a conceptual way of approaching the tabletop, and you might find that helpful, you might not. For me, I found that really helpful. But I think you've got a few things to work on, so give it a try and report back to us. Oh, Caro has a good tip as well about doing it on the floor. And you can, like, what I was thinking to kind of follow up on this as well is to think about lying on your back and then using your core and your legs to flip over onto your stomach. I think that could be okay training as well. And so you're just flipping over onto your stomach. And so the same way that you would be rotating in the tabletop. All right. Eric asks about float and ride conditions, and he's got a lot of good questions that bring up a lot of healthy discussion. For me, when I'm talking about float and ride, I'm talking about side offshore conditions generally. I mean, sometimes there's onshore conditions, but the more onshore it is, I think the bigger the board you need, the bigger the sail you need. So if it's offshore, light offshore, you can get away really with having very, very little in the way of gear. You know, like I say in here, you know, there's sessions I've had at Hokipo where there's not enough wind to water start on the inside. And so I swim out. And the only reason that's possible is because there's a channel. So I swim around the rocks and out the channel, and I can water start and catch waves and then stay in the circle with the current. But if you're sailing a beach break where there's no channel, that's just not possible. So it's really spot dependent and depends a lot on your skill and your gear, what you're trying to do. There's a video I have that I found actually from the Portugal trip as well, where there was pretty much no wind. And yeah, pretty much no wind. I think it was this, yeah, it's this clip. So there's pretty much no wind. And we were so desperate. This is one of the first days. And so we went on this great forecast. The forecast just didn't materialize. So there's pretty much no wind. Like there's no whitecaps. This little flag is kind of flying. And I was, like, you can't tell, but like before this, I'm sinking on my board. I'm like sinking up to my waist, and then I'm using the swell to kind of get going and pump onto it. And I don't know, this might stress my computer too much to try to play this while we're streaming. And this is kind of all I was able to do. And this was like my one wave ride that day. Yeah. Anyway, there's a lot of great discussion on float and ride here. All right, Bjorn, forward loops on big gear. So great attempts. I like these. Going for it. Fear and commitment is not your issue. This is solid. Getting a lot of these attempts in, and the some of the other comments really kind of nail what I'm going to say. So I'm going to reinforce what some of the other members of the group have said, and then I'm going to add one or two other things. So you're talking about with big gear, when we're talking about the ideal conditions for looping, I think there's a range. And so for my weight, that's somewhere between 4.2 and say 5.2. And then on the bigger side, the rotations are more difficult. It's rotating more slowly. And then on the smaller side, it's also difficult because it's rotating so fast. And so the sweet spot where it's comfortable and easy is for my weight, somewhere between 4.2 and 5.2, something like that on those sizes. And of course I can still do them on a 5.8 and I can do them on a 3.3, but they're more comfortable on the inner part of that range. So if you're working on just getting the forward you want to stay in that comfort range and whatever that is for yourself. And so that might mean that when it's a 3-7 day that you're not working on forwards, or if it's a 5-5 day, you're not working on forwards. Now it's a different story if you can already do forwards and you just want to learn them in these more extreme conditions, either with lots of wind or with little wind. And then I think it's important to kind of recognize what's happening on the bigger sails and what's happening on the smaller sails. So on the smaller sails, you've got a lot of power, the rotation's happening more quickly. On the bigger sails, often you have less power, the rotation is slower. The draft, if you're overpowered, is then more likely to be moving around the sail, which is more uncomfortable. It's something we touched on last week. Say being overpowered on a bigger sail is more uncomfortable than being overpowered on a smaller sail. So that's one of the issues. For taking off, it can be beneficial if you're really powered to go more downwind on the takeoff. If you need power to help you with the rotation, like on the bigger gear, you don't want to go too downwind. So Bjorn tried a few going upwind and said it didn't work. I agree with that and understand that, but I think having maybe a 90-degree angle to the wind is probably ideal on the lighter wind, bigger sail sessions, which will give you some extra power in the sail to help with the rotation. And then conversely, like with a smaller sail, the more you're going downwind, there's also a bit of power that's killed from the sail, which then can make it a little bit easier to pull the trigger on it. The other big things that other people have already mentioned in the comments are about the hands. And so you want to move your front hand back and move your back hand back. And that is advice that works whether you're on big sails like this or small sails. It gives you more control of the rig, and more control is always a good thing. So you want to move this front hand till it's almost touching the harness lines or even touching the harness lines, and then move that back hand a good 30 centimeters back at least. Other people recommend going to the clips. You can do that, but you don't have to. You could go back, say, another 30 centimeters. If you need a visual or tactile aid, what you can do is put a bit of tape, either duct tape or electrical tape, or some other kind of tape with grip, like tape for a tennis grip. There's lots of different kinds of tape that will work and stick on the boom. Put the tape there, and then you've got a visual and tactile indicator for where to grip. And as one of the commenters said, who was it? It was a great comment. I think it was Richie. Is it Richie? Yeah, Richie was saying that he likes to look back to make sure that his hand is there, and that helps him look back as well with his head, which is another really important part of the move. And so I really like Richie's advice here. I think that's solid. You don't have to grip all the way back to the clip. For some people, that's too far, and then that will hinder your ability to control the sail because your wingspan is too spread out. So there is a point that's too far, but you definitely need to go farther back than where you are now, and that'll give you more control. It'll help the rotation happen more quickly on these bigger sizes, and it's also something that you want to do on the smaller sizes because it gives you more control. So it's very, very helpful to move that front hand back, move the back hand back, at least 30 centimeters, and that front hand can come back about 15 centimeters or to the harness lines, and that will really help. And I mean, otherwise you can do it. You're doing the rotation, getting that wider grip, feeling the different takeoffs. So, you've had some questions about which angle you should be taking off into the wind. I think perfect cross to the wind is good for these kind of conditions. But it's really good to do what you're doing and experiment and feel what it feels like to go upwind, feel what it feels like to go downwind, because that will make you a better sailor and teach you a lot about the move. But I think it's pretty straightforward what you need to do to work on to get this better. And it's pretty much just the hands, and the head. So good luck. Let us know how it goes. Get some video. We want to see it. All right, I posted this. This is a wave from me, from Ginshu. I'm super proud of this wave because of how Oh, I clicked the wrong thing. How difficult the conditions were, and I just really wanted to link some turns, which I did on that one. So I was stoked there. All right, moving on. I know we've got Jeff in the roster. Is Jeff up next? All right, we got this clip from Richard. Let's go through the clip from Richard. So Richard had some wave sailing. It was super stoked about it. New board, good conditions. It's his bad side, but he's sailing pretty good for his bad side. Yeah. So he's stoked. We're happy about that. Some nice turns in here. I've already watched this, and we can watch it. Let's make it bigger. I hope you guys can see this whole thing. I never know where it cuts off with the streaming. So one of the things that I noticed, Rich, and so we see it, like this is a good example of it, is sometimes you do a really good job of moving your hands and sometimes you don't. So for example, I think the first turn of the wave, that was a nice high five, by the way. I like this. I like finding this section, getting that high five. You can see that you're adjusting the angle of the board to connect with that whitewater. You can see the acceleration. I love that. I love seeing that. I love that acceleration. I love that. Bam. All right. So this next clip is a great example. So you can see on your first turn, you're moving your hands. So you could be wider on the bottom turn, but you move your hands in for the cutback and you get it looks like a nice connection there. It's a little bit hard to see with this angle, but I went back too far. But it looks like it's a nice connection. You're moving the hands. But then once we get into the other turns, the hands are staying in one place and you're not moving them anymore. And you can see that you don't connect as well with the wave as you did on that first turn. Is the reason the hands? I don't know. Not necessarily. But moving the hands back, so moving this hand somewhere here and then moving it forward again when you come to the top turn will give you more control. And so it makes it easier for you to do what you want to do, to put your desire into action. So that is something to work on. And again, you did a good job with the first turn, so you can do it. It's just a matter of remembering to do it. And you can see, there's a lot of good things going on in your form here, right? Like your hips are turned into the turn, like we talk about. You kind of miss the connection a bit. You're a little bit late, but even with that late section, if you just try and get that high five, also it would work, and you can catch the board that way. So you can see that then you're having, as opposed to these other turns where you're picking up the speed from the wave here, because you don't get that high five, because you're not presenting the bottom of the board to the whitewater, you're losing connection with the wave, and then you're losing speed, and you've got to pump to stay in it. Nice floaty jump. Boom. So again, here you're moving your hands on the first turn. It's wider. Comes in again. I like that. That looks nice. Wrapping all the way back around on the cutback. I like that a lot. All right. See, you're coming up, getting that cutback, getting that S position, right, with the arm. This is another thing that is important. And when you're coming up to that turn, getting that S in your arm really helps with the transition. So that looks nice. And then let's see here. So Jeff's asking you, Rich, what camera mount are you using to film this? Boom. That was nice. Another nice floaty jump. So my biggest comment, Rich, Ouch. My biggest comment is about the hands, and that will make a huge difference for you and gives you more control. It makes it so much easier to put what's in your head into reality. I'm surprised, even with myself, when it's something like when I look at my footage, like when we look at this, like here, I'll show you an example from my footage, from this footage. Like there are times I was watching this clip and there are moments where I'm not moving my hands as much, and you can see that I'm not able to come up as vertically and do what I want to do. So somewhere in here there's a maybe it's this one. So here I grip back in the bottom turn, but you can see that I've got this pretty wide grip. But I think I should have moved my hand more forward here. And I kind of get caught in the lip because I didn't move that backhand more forward for the cutback. But there's another one somewhere here. Oh, maybe it's this first one. So here I've got the wide grip, and you can see that I come to the narrow grip, and then look how much better I'm able to accelerate through that. Like, I don't know if you guys can see this. I got this really wide grip. I'm grabbing almost to the clips, coming up to the lip, and here I move my hand almost to the harness lines, hit it, move it back again, and I accelerate so much more from that contact with the lip. And I have so much control to then come up vertically, which I don't have in some of these other ones. So I don't know. That's a different kind of turn. So here again, you can see that I grab really far back. I'm grabbing basically to the clips, and it allows me to do this vertical turn. And then there's other ones, like this one that we already saw, where I'm not grabbing so far back and I'm not adjusting my hands as much. Anyway, the point is that moving your hands makes a huge difference. And it's something that I'm also very conscious of when I'm on the water. And it's something that I think about. And when I notice that I'm doing it, I'm better able to put what I want to do into practice. I can go more vertical. I keep more speed. And it happens naturally, but it's also something you have to think about. And even at my level, it's something where I also remind myself and think about it, and just focusing on these little fundamentals. And it's that can be the one thing that you're thinking about. So you're just thinking about, okay, I've got to just move that hand back and move it forward, move that hand back and move it forward. And because you don't want to be thinking about too much. And so just sort of thinking about that hand movement, maybe for one session, and see how it affects the session. Another thing you could do is to put some tape on the back of the boom that you can feel, right? Something to grip back to. So you've got a visual or tactile marker, right? So you don't want to be looking back there as you're going into your bottom turn, but if you set up beforehand, you could put it back there, and then you can look at it and say, oh yeah, my hand is back far enough, and then you go into the turn. So that's the biggest thing. Otherwise, Rich, I'm impressed. Great sailing, especially for your bad side, for your devil's side. I like the high fives in there. I like the floaty jumps. Good stuff. All right, moving on to Jeff. Yeah, so as long as Rich, just following up, so as long as you have some kind of indicator. Oh, why did I go to full screen? Why does that go to full screen? As long as you have some kind of indicator, that's good. And if you need more of one, then the tape can be good. All right, Jeff. So we've got 2 posts of yours kind of with a similar topic about the twisting hips. Yeah. So it looks like you're carrying a lot of speed here. It's easier, I think, if you upload the file rather than filming the screen. We can still see it, but nice. Let's just kind of watch this again a bit. So Jeff, good job moving hands. Speaking about moving hands, move that hand back and forward. Yeah, so good job with the hands. And I'm really glad that the comment about the hips helped. It's something that I found super useful myself, and I think it can make a big difference, especially when you're sailing on on your opposite side. So Jeff, I guess that would be port tack for you, because I think you're used to sailing starboard tack. You were having questions about the transition, and I've got a couple comments about that. Yeah, but Rich, it looked good. I think overall it looked good. I could see that your hips were pointing into the turns, and you're getting some high fives. The hand movements will just help to give you more control. Jeff, this also looks good. I like that you're carrying a lot of speed. I like that you're moving your hands. I like that you're using your hips like we talked about. So your question specifically was about that transition, and the biggest sort of caveat that I have to put in here before I start talking about the technique is that a lot of it does have to do with gear, and not all boards are equal in this respect. And one of the things that I look for the most when I'm getting a new board is how well it can do that rail to rail transition. I'm obsessed about that. And not all boards are the same. So board to board, it can make a difference. I don't know how these quattros are. I'm not sure if this is a custom or production, and I'm not sure how they are on that transition. You can play with the settings to try to make it better. So you can try moving the mast back, can help sometimes, because sometimes if the mast is too far forward, then you can get stuck on the bottom turn rail, and having it back can help with the transition. You can play with your fins, maybe moving them closer together can help again with that position. All right, you said you just posted some stills. Let me refresh this page and see if I can find them, and then I can go back to your other videos. And I have one big technique thing to say before we get into too much else. So you get tied up moving into the cutback. Yeah, so again, it can be a matter of equipment, or equipment can make a difference here. So it's, equipment is so important in windsurfing, and it's really important to realize that, because we could spend forever trying to learn something, and if your equipment's not set up for it, you're going to have a really, really, really difficult time. And so this transition is something where, for me, I find the equipment makes a huge difference. And so you can play with your fins, move them closer together, move your mast track farther back. You could even try moving your foot straps back, so keep the same width, but move them back a bit and see if that helps. And it's one of those things where maybe it helps you, and then you can work on that transition, and then you can move them forward again if there are aspects of having them forward that you like more. I'm not really sure how that works, but I found that can work. So if you make it easier with the equipment to then learn it, then you can change the equipment back again to how you had it, but you still have some of the awareness and you have to adjust a bit. But it's always better to learn things easier, right? So make the equipment as easy as possible. So the big technique thing, though, that I want to bring up is about that S position in the arm. And we can see that you're doing it actually a little bit on this clip. You're not doing it as much in the videos. So on the videos that you posted that we just watched, then also the other ones that you posted, there's a lot, which let's try and find them. But there's a lot of this, like the sail. I don't know if you guys can see my whole body, but kind of the sail out like this and then going into the cutback instead of bringing that front hand kind of across that body and making that S from your hand through your wrist to your upper arm. And that motion really helps to depower the sail and helps to then roll your body, roll your board onto that cutback rail. So let's find, so this was your other post, right? Yeah. So we can see here, so at this point you've got really good lower body positioning. We can see your carving, but I want to see the sail at this point already as you're coming up the wave here, moving across the body. You're moving your hands closer together and you're getting that S in your hand. Have we, Jeff, have you been on any of the streams where we've talked about that before? Otherwise I can pull up some more pictures of it, if that's not clear. I like how this looks. Looks like you're getting the high five on the board. Is that the sequence? No, okay. Let me try and find some. So this is pretty onshore conditions in Ginshu. And so here's an example, which I think you're sailing in more onshore conditions than this, but this is still pretty side on. And so here's kind of an example where as I'm coming up the wave, I'm bringing this hand, that front, I'm bringing my backhand in and then bringing this front hand across my body and making this S. So I wonder if I can zoom in on this. Can I zoom in? No, I can't zoom in. But hopefully you can see that. So you make, it's like this S with the front arm, and I've got better video that I can pull up afterwards to show you, but I just want to bring this up because it's onshore conditions. Here's another one where it's a little bit less extreme, but again, still bringing that sail across the body and getting that sort of S position with the hand. And doing it even in onshore makes a big difference for depowering the sail so you don't get locked. What you see a lot of people doing is staying in that postura position and then trying to do their turn. And sometimes that can work. But a lot of times then you've got too much power. It's hard to transition. It's hard to get on the other rail. And so bringing that sail across the body, getting that S position with your hand, with your arm, sort of unloads the sail and makes it easier then for you to start leaning back onto your cutback rail to present the bottom of the board to the wave. And see, even on this like weird little turn, I do it to then sort of unpower the sail, helps unweight the board, right? Because otherwise the power of the sail is also really pressing on the board on that rail, so it's really hard to get off the rail. Thomas asked, why do you want to depower? So there are times where you don't want to depower for sure, but a lot of times you do, even for just a moment, to help you sort of unweight so that you can then transition rails. Otherwise you have the problem that Jeff is talking about where you have difficulty transitioning rails. And so, not to pick on him, he's a great windsurfer and an amazing jumper, but pawns sometimes in Pozo doesn't do this movement, and you can see then the result of it. And he's a great windsurfer, so nothing against, I mean, watch how epic all this stuff is. And so there he does it. You can see he moves the sail across the body, helps him depower. And I'm sure there's other examples of other people not doing it, but just in my head, I have pictures of him doing his cutbacks without it. And you can see then how much power he has in the sail and how it makes it difficult for his cutback. So again, here he's doing that S and depowering, but this is going into a taka. I just want to find an example where you can see where you're not doing that S in those kind of windy onshore conditions and what happens. All right, come on, we can skip all this stuff. Just curious about the frontside turns. Again, Pons is an epic sailor. Like, I mean, these jumps are epic. Gosh, this long video of an airplane. So here you can kind of, crazy double forward. So here you can kind of see it where he doesn't, so this is kind of an example. You can see here he's coming from the postura and he doesn't bring the sail across the body, and he presents the board to get this high five, but he gets stuck a bit. You can see he's getting stuck in the whitewater. He's not getting projection, and he cuts the clip because I guess he falls there. I mean, these are all sick. That backside 360 is amazing. Wow, look at that. Boom. All right, that's the 360. So he's not really showing any of his frontside turns. Anyway, I think you get what I mean, Jeff. And there's somewhere here. One of these also shows it. So there's an aerial, and again, this is down the line. So different kind of conditions, but here you can see again the sail coming across the body to unweight, and then I still have, so Thomas, just to answer your point, I still have a lot of force to really throw the board, even though I'm doing that unweighting. Boom. All right, Jeff is asking, after you do the S, do you then whip the mast forward? And I think it depends. I think it depends on what you're trying to do. Yeah, so here you can see it as well. So you can see I'm bringing that sail across the body. I get that S position with my arm. And then I'm pushing it forward, but I'm not like really whipping it forward. But also at this point, I'm really focusing on the board. So where my focus is, I think my focus is a lot of my board here on the initiation and through the turn. And then as I'm coming up, I'm not thinking about the board so much, and I'm thinking about the sail, and I'm sort of unweighting and then transitioning to the other rail. And that's when I do the S, and I'm thinking about the sail in my hands and the lip. I'm thinking about where I'm going to make contact with the board and the lip. And you can see here, get that bottom facing the lip to get that high five. And then at this point, again, my focus is back inside the board, and I'm not really thinking about the sail. And the sail kind of is just following my upper body. And I help kind of drive around with the sail, but even if I didn't do that, it still would have been a fine turn. And there's an aerial. Yeah, I think that was here. Maybe we have another one. This is also pretty onshore conditions on my bad side. But again, see, bringing that sail around, it just really helps get that transition. You can see that as I bring the sail forward, the board is transitioning rails, and it just helps sort of unweight, unlock. Yeah, just really, really helps to then get onto the other rail and off the bottom turn rail. So I wouldn't say that I whip it forward. I'd say that sort of after I do that, then I'm really just focusing on the board. So Jeff, your homework is to focus on that. Keep doing the hips like you're doing. Looks like it's working great. And then get the S with your arm. And so the way you do that is you're bringing that sail across your body. And that helps you to have that moment of unweight to transition rails. Yeah, I think there are other things happening as you're doing that as well. It's not just there's something that is working with your body. And the nice thing with this is you don't have to really know why. Just know that it does work. And if you watch, we can pull up videos from Levi, I think I've got the Windsurfing movie somewhere here. Somewhere here, this was I did this clip for Windsurfing TV about this windy day. And somewhere here, I think maybe there's some examples where I'm not doing this transition as well. And then you can see again that I'm not getting that connection. So there I do it. I get, it's a little S, but still get the S. Here a lot less so. And it's more of just the wave is turning me around. And so like on this turn, I don't move my backhand forward very much. And I think that compromises the quality of the turn. So rather than staying on the rail, I kind of do this pivot, right? And I'm already off the rail by this point. Here you can see that I'm doing that S a lot, really bringing the sail across the body. And so, I think the S is a really good sort of key image to have in your head, but the feeling is like you're moving the sail across the body, right? So I'm coming into the bottom turn, then I'm moving that sail across my body, and then I'm able to just jam on the rail because I don't have that sail pulling me on the toe side rail anymore, right? All right, Jeff, you've got your homework. Does that make sense? Let us know if you have any questions. Hopefully you can get some photos, some video this week if it's windy, and we can go from there. Let me know if that makes sense. Hopefully everything makes sense. All right, we've got a wave from Alex. Let's turn up the music. And let's bump up the quality. Why is this quality low? So this is in Hands Thumb, very fun spot. I think this is from Sunday, a couple Sundays ago when I was up there. Riding the whitewater. Riding the whitewater is a great exercise, and it's something that I recommend everyone do. It really helps to work on your board positioning skills without having to worry about timing. So you can work on getting that high five. You can work on getting vertical, feeling what it feels like to have contact with different parts of the board for the off the lip. You don't have to worry about timing. So Alex, what I want to see you do differently next time is let the whitewater turn you around. Get that high five. So you can see here that you're starting to turn before you get to the whitewater. You know what wave riding is, and you know this is something I've said a lot in this coaching, but I can't say it enough. What wave riding is taking energy from a storm that's been turned into waves and transferring that energy into board speed. And so you've got to make connection with the wave. It's not about turning on a wave, is not about steering yourself around on the wave. Turning on a wave is about using the wave to accelerate. And so if you're doing all the work with your sail and your body, then you're doing it wrong. You need to be using the power of the wave. And that's actually easier. It's less work than this. So what I want you to do, Alex, is come up to the whitewater and let the whitewater turn you around. Feel the power of the whitewater. Get that high five. Let it turn you around rather than steering the board around yourself. You've got a nice wide grip. You could narrow the grip on the cutback. You'd have more control. I like that you're going both front side and back side. I think that provides a really good awareness. There we get a bit more contact with the whitewater. So the two main things is to move the hands a bit more. So you've got a nice wide grip on the bottom turns. I like that. But you can bring the hand in for the cutbacks and then to use the power of the whitewater to turn you around. So don't turn around, don't steer around. You know, come up to the whitewater, trying to get that high five and let the whitewater push you around. And it feels great. And it will really, you know, if you're doing that a few times and working on the whitewater is such a good exercise. I recommend it to everyone. If you do that a few times, you'll really start to feel it. You'll become, you know, increase the awareness with your board so much, and will help you when you're riding not on the whitewater. It's really a good exercise that I recommend to anyone, no matter what skill you are in wave riding, whether you're the top or just starting out. Riding the whitewater is a great way to practice some fundamental skills like board positioning, and you don't have to worry about the timing because the wave is already broke. So it's great practice. Use that wave to turn you around. All right, I think that's all the topics for today. I'm going to go back up to the main thread and see. I think there were maybe a few questions there, so I'm going to go check that. I did this interview with Manuel, so this is in the group. It's also on my YouTube. We talked for an hour and a half. He's been testing boards for Surf magazine for almost 20 years, boards and sails, and we talked a lot about board and sail testing. I had a document. Ciao, Dondom. I had a document of questions that you guys put together, and I tried to ask him all those questions. So your answers are in here. If you have more questions and you want to do a follow-up, let me know. Let me know in the comments on the YouTube video, and then I can do another Zoom interview with him like this, and we can talk about whatever you guys want me to talk about. If you want me to do interviews with other people, also let me know. Post it on the comments of this video. Maybe in the comments, not the chat. I don't know if you guys see a difference. I see a difference when I go into the videos, but somewhere where I can find it. And yeah, I could interview other people. I'm cool with that. Whoever in the industry, you know, whether it's Rich Page who runs the PWA, or Shaper like Fabian from Cebu, or someone else, we can do an interview like that. I like the format where it's not live for those interviews. I think it's a little bit more comfortable for the person who's being interviewed, because not many people are used to doing live like this. Cool. I think that's all the topics for today. I just went through, make sure there's no questions. So one thing that I mentioned in the beginning, and I'm going to do a post about this as well, but if you missed it in the beginning, I'm going to repeat it right now. I'm asking everyone to start using hashtags for their posts, and there's going to be a way of doing it where we hashtag first the general category, so wave riding, jumping, gear, fitness, etc., and then the topic, so tabletops, bottom turns, whatever. And we're going to put together a directory, so that's something I'm going to ask you guys to help participate with, and that will make it easier for everyone to find the old posts. Cool. All right, thanks everyone. I enjoyed that. See you guys next weekend. I hope you have a windy week. I don't know if I'm going to have a windy week. I'm going to try and put together this Portugal footage for something. I'm going to send it to Ben Profit for his windsurfing TV stuff, so he might post that next weekend. Otherwise, yeah, I've got some logistic stuff to do with my clinics that I'm teaching this summer that are coming up, which I'm very excited about. And yeah, I don't know if I'm going to get on the water this week. We'll see. If there's a forecast, I'm going to go. I'm dying to. All right, guys, take care. Have a windy week. I'll see you in the Facebook group, and I'll see you next Sunday. All right. Bye.